Welcome back. Joe Volpe, publisher of Corriere Canadese. You know it's the only Italian language daily newspaper in all of North America. And for Go Live TV and Corcan Media Group, we're continuing our coverage of the municipal elections, this time again in the Toronto area, but we're shifting over to the educational component. So in education, everybody knows that we have at least two school boards. There's actually another two, French language, but the two school boards, TCDSB, the one that we're interested in, which is the Toronto Catholic District School Board, and the Toronto School Board, which is what people used to call the School Board. Yes, the Toronto District. People used to call the Public School Board. So with me is Sal Piccininni. He's the trustee, the incumbent trustee, for a ward that's changed.
Yes.
But you're in that basic area, someplace called Humber River Black Creek, that people used to think of as
York West.
York West.
That's correct.
And you used to be two different wards. What were they?
I used to have half of Humber River Black Creek, or York West, the former York West, and I had half of York Southweston.
There you go. But now it's all one. And it's this ward, what was that ward number that you're in again?
Ward number 3, Humber River, Black Creek.
All right.
And before we go on, I just want to say thank you for having me.
No, listen, it's our pleasure, because we want to know a lot more about education. We want to know about the Toronto Catholic District School Board and the way that it functions. Now, everybody out there is always looking for the trustee. You're the guy that carries the can. The buck stops there. Even though it stops at the administration, it stops with the trustee.
That's correct.
You get any calls?
I get calls every day, and about a number of different things, from math to transportation.
So why don't we stop at math for a second?
Okay.
I don't want to be a devil's advocate, but you know, and here it is, and you're talking about the ACAO scores. So we've looked in our newspaper at the ACAO scores. Your school board's not better than any other place. No. It's actually, I hate to say worse, but because I don't want to be critical. But they're not flattering numbers. So when ACAO, which is the Ontario organization that tests kids at the end of grade 3, the end of grade 6, and grade 9.
Yes.
And they measure their abilities to function in math and English.
Yes.
The math scores are?
The math scores are up in grade 3, but there's something happening at the grade 6 level. And they're averaged at grade 9. So that's what's happening now. So just last week, we implemented, we had a study going on, and we've implemented now another tool in helping the students, and it's called Jump Math. So that's an add-on for them to help them with the curriculum that is there now. And we just implemented that it'll start probably in the next semester, but we okayed it last week at our board meeting. So it's another tool for the teachers, and it's another tool for the students.
So I'd like to help my grandkids, because as you can tell from my hair, it's no longer my kids. But there used to be something called rote memory. Well, that's a dirty word today, right? And people are supposed to memorize some things, because that way you can be sure that they understand the difference between addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. The old times table, does anybody still use that?
Well, they do, but they don't memorize it the way they do. A lot of people use the timetable with their computer, their iPhones. It's amazing the amount of technology that is now in schools. So it's not the old way. It's the same way with us. We're almost of the same vintage. Is we used to know phone numbers, and we used to memorize phone numbers, and we don't do that anymore because we rely on our smart devices to hold all our numbers in that. So there is.
But that's not the reason why kids are having bad scores.
No, I honestly think, and I'm no expert, but I believe there's a developmental when it comes to that grade 6 hurdle. And I don't know if they're getting rushed into it, because it seems the old curriculum in math, the old curriculum, it seemed that the children got it. And then around 2005 is when the former government changed the curriculum, and they tried to make it an all-encompassing English comprehension math course, and that seemed to throw everyone off, including the parents. And we've been devoting resources to it, but it just, when you got to that cognitive block of grade 6, it seemed to be a hurdle.
Now, cognitive block.
Well,
for those of us who are just parents and grandparents, that means
Well, and it just seems that the math is more advanced than the actual kid's development at that stage.
So in other words, let me be a real cynic here. The teacher didn't teach the kids how to go from 2 plus 2 to 12 plus 12.
Well, I don't know if it would be that. I can't reference all the studies right now, but I have seen some, and we were looking at them last week, and that's why I was talking about it. And I was talking with one of our coordinators and superintendents about it. And that seems to be the stumbling block, is right there. Because after you pass that hurdle, it seems like we're teaching for the test, the grade 6 test, instead of teaching for the student. And that's been one of the reasons why I don't like EQAO, because we seem to forget, we put the student on one side and we just concentrate on the test. And I don't like that, because then everyone gets caught up in the test and they're not worrying about the needs of the student. So I think with this jump math and bringing it back together, I think you're going to see what's happening and going forward on that. And that's something I've just been pushing for, is, the educators need to grab a hold of this. And, we want to make better citizens out of people.
So, I'm glad to hear that. But, when we're talking about educators, so now we have a new premier. And that premier seems to be more of the 3 R's, writing, arithmetic, and what's the other R now? I can't remember. But you got to have writing and arithmetic skills. Otherwise...
You got to read, too.
Oh, that's the other one. I can only judge things by what I see. And with my own grandkids, who are a reflection of what happens in the school system. By the way, they go to your school system. So, I'll know that there's that, my confidence in it is being shaken a little bit. Maybe I'm more demanding than I should be, but parents want their kids to be fluent in the language. They want them to know how to write.
Of course they do.
But, all I see is printing, and it's sloppy printing.
Cursive writing is gone away ever since the new devices came out. In fact, one of our other trustees, Trustee Anderchuk, really wants to bring cursive writing back.
Well, listen, get her over here. We want her to talk about that.
It's an expert. It's something that she's an expert in. But I see it myself. I see it with people I know in their 20s that can't write. Cursive writing has just gone away, and the ministry
Right.
doesn't seem to put an emphasis on cursive writing anymore. That has been gone for a long time.
But the cursive writing, I don't want to talk about the philosophy of whether. And
but we are kind of dictated by what the ministry wants, right?
I know that the ministry wants a particular curriculum, and you guys have proven yourselves at your school board either adept at adopting what the ministry says, or adept at developing your own curriculum. You have to. You're a Catholic school board.
We do have our
You've got to have a religious base to your program. Otherwise, what's the purpose?
That's why we don't have the controversy that's out there right now in the sexual education. Is because we have our own curriculum that's done.
It should cover.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with people learning everything about what it is. What's the complete man and woman, the child, and the gender differences. Teaching dignity, etc. Teaching a concept of morality. All of those things are worthwhile. We've always said, and your school board has founded itself on 3 basic tenets: family,
home, and church.
Home and church.
Yes.
You just got to define those 3 all the time.
Well, you're right on that. Sometimes things get blurred.
Yeah.
But just to get back to the sex ed, like we go through the Institute of Catholic Education, or the acronym ICE, and we also go through the Conference of the Bishops. So I think we present it in a more reasonable fashion than it was put out there originally. Not that it was bad, but I don't think I think they tried to push it through and didn't consult properly.
Right.
And I think that's where people got hung up in it, because I don't really know many people that have read the whole curriculum. Okay, but they get caught up in little, like a line here and a line there, and they don't really know the reason around it. So
the parents only read the curriculum for the part that interests them, and usually when there's a problem in the school. For example,
but like I'm saying, we don't have that. I'm sorry to cut you off. We don't have that problem when it comes to that
just
part.
the interviewer. People want to see what you have to say.
No, but it's that part of the curriculum. Like when I'm out there and I'm knocking on doors and that, I had one person ask me about sex ed, and I explained to them what I just told you, and then all of a sudden you could see like a relief on it, because it was like, oh, you're listening to us and you're bringing it forward in a reasonable way.
Well, look,
So.
Sal, with all due respect, because, you've been on the right side of issues that the Corriere has covered. We think so, anyway.
Well, thank you.
And if other people don't like it, that's their problem. But you've been on the right side of international languages, and we compliment you for that. We understand that you comprehend the reasons why international language study is an enhancement of the educational process. We have appreciated the fact that you have sided with the community on a whole assortment of things that have to do with both the curriculum and the physical infrastructure. And we'll talk about that for a second. But most people, what they do is they say, we're giving you our child.
Their most precious resource.
Exactly. And they expect that you will focus on a curriculum that's in the best interests of that child, looking forward down the road. Is that too much to ask?
Not at all. Not at all. If you look over the last 8 years and the resources that we put in, and when it first came out, it was the English component, the reading and writing component of the EQAO, and we worked on that, and we worked on it as a whole. It wasn't, and that's where international languages come in too, because it works as a whole together, and it's a comprehension and an understanding of all the curriculums together. Now, we've got the data, we're going, okay, we're doing good over here, but again, math scores, that's important. So now that's what we're concentrating on. We're not letting that go, we're staying vigilant over here, but now we want to do this, because I look at it this way, is at the end of the day, I want to make sure that every child leaves our system and has the skills to be the best person that they can be. And to me, that's the most important thing, is when they graduate, the world is their, opportunity. It's their oyster. It's their opportunity. And I want to make sure they have that.
I wonder if we have some of those pictures of some of those schools that sell. I think they're in your, what's this?
That's St. Roch's.
That's St. Roch's.
Yeah.
That used to be a huge school.
In fact, right in front, there used to be a porta pack there of over 1,200 children that were in a porta pack. It was huge. It was about 12 or 14 classrooms. It almost took up the whole parking lot.
Well, Catholic schools have traditionally not had the same kind of facilities. So
that's something I fight for.
Well, you should. One of the things that's always missing in these schools is a gymnasium that's full-sized. So, I know that you were involved in one not too far down the road over at
St. Simon's.
St. Simon's, but there was another one over on
St. Bernard's.
St. Bernard's.
In my old ward, yes.
In your old ward.
Yes.
But you did it anyway.
Yes, we're getting it done. They're doing all the blueprints and everything for it right now, so it will be up and running shortly. But the parents are staying vigilant on it. I told them to, and
but they're not coming up to your ward to vote for you.
No,
that would be illegal. But they probably have relatives.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but it's about doing what's right. Like if you're gonna be a trustee, you're a trustee for the whole board, and sometimes it's not your ward. This time it was my ward, now it isn't. But I'm very happy that those kids down there for the next 50 years have an opportunity to play and have that, that they never had before. It was a concrete jungle down there. Now, at least when it's raining, it's cold, they can have sports teams, they can practice, they can have permits afterwards, the community can use it. So, it's about making a better system, not just in your own little fiefdom. And that's the way I've always looked at it. And I think that's why I've been getting reelected for 20 years, is because I do have a broader view of the board. The board comes first, and my area, I'm always there to take care of it. I return the phone calls. I advocate for the parents. These are important things. You talk about facilities right now. So it's October 9th today, and it's 30 degrees outside.
Yes.
How many of our schools, and this to me is a major education issue, and it's not curriculum, it's air conditioning. It's ventilation. We built schools on a shoestring budget. When you first started teaching, those schools. And we didn't have the forced air. And that is something right now that I'm working on a plan to bring it in after the election, because it's just the timing of the way things are going. But we're working on a plan right now to try to alleviate that. Just like we worked on a plan a little while ago that we just brought in about advocating for cameras for every school. We need to. It's imperative right now. I can't stress this enough. It's imperative that we get air moving in those schools. Some of these schools, what are happening, the stories that we're hearing of teachers fainting, children fainting, there's more environmental problems now than there were when I was a child. We never thought of it back then.
Well, the kids can't learn in an environment
They can't learn. They're
not
9 o'clock in the morning, the kids come in, it's stale air. They're sweating on their arms, they're sweating on their paper, the teacher's sweating. So, you're not being very productive. So it's important, and it's one of the biggest issues that I'm getting in my older schools. A biggest issue is about air conditioning.
Well, good for you on that. I don't want to leave on a negative, but I'll combine a negative with a positive. About 6 years ago, the government of Ontario then gave your school board a pile of money to fix 2 schools that are close to this place, Regina Mundi and Dante Alighieri. And somebody, in a convoluted fashion, tried to come up with a different program than the one for which the monies were initially intended. Now they're back into that initial intent. So one of the things that we'd like to do, you were involved in getting things, refocusing on the attention that the community wanted. And the community, 6 years later, said, you know what? The plan that you guys came up with was wrong. We had
a bad dance partner, as far as I'm concerned.
You lost a whole generation of students who could have used new facilities.
And I think we talked about this before.
And we should talk about it again, because it's the only way that people keep their focus. But anyway, Sal Piccininni, thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
And for getting beat up on this business. But it's important to call out the fact that education is curriculum and infrastructure, and you got to look at both of them.
I am available anytime you need me. I don't mind being asked the hard questions. I'm here for my community, and I always will be. Thank you.
Well, here's a compliment for you. There's a former colleague at the provincial level. She was a minister, Laura Albanese. She went out of her way to be photographed with you and to talk about the fact that people need somebody with your experience. And you know what? Good on her for doing it. Thanks for coming over.
It's always a pleasure.
On October 22nd, vote. Vote early. Make sure you vote. Trustees don't get the attention that you and I and all of us should be giving them. Follow all of the themes on Corriere.ca, Corriere Canadese online. It's Joe Volpe for Corriere Canadese, Go Live TV, and Corcan Media Group, thanking Sal Piccinini, spell the name right, and all of you for watching. Thank you very much.
Good day.